What is up, everybody? Fresh episode in New York City at the finish line with Des Linden. This is Nobody Asked Us with Des and Kara, presented by Brooks Running. What?
Let's
Des,
go.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm surprisingly good. I mean,
you are doing good.
What an amazing day. Like, legit. I feel like we have that high energy intro, but like, honestly, it's so nice today. What a great day for running. Seeing people cross the finish line has been awesome. I'm pumped. I'm happy. I'm a happy camper.
It was a good day all around. We're going to get all into it. Oh, you're having special delivery.
Hey,
wow,
Freshy
okay.
fresh.
Okay. I did not run a marathon today. But okay, let's talk about this day, right? Because we want to talk about the professional races. We also want to talk about your race.
I was also in those, but yeah. You have to do a heavy lift on the professionals because we went straight from the finish line to recording. And we have Chris
Jess hasn't seen anything, heard anything. So I called the races for the world feed. So nobody in the U.S. saw me or heard me, which is fine.
It's okay.
But everybody in any other English-speaking country did. And it was a very different experience for me because there's no commercial breaks. There's no packages built in.
Yeah.
And it's 3.5 hours of coverage of the wheelchair races.
You're telling everyone that, like, hey, you know what you missed out on? No commercial breaks.
You missed out on the best call ever. But honestly, it was pretty fun because anytime it was actually really fun because, like, at one point, Jenny Simpson made a break for the front. And I'm like, we have to switch to the women's race and we could just do it because we weren't beholden to anything. Yeah. So it was really fun. So I got to see all of the races break down, but you were actually in the races. So let's talk about your lead up. You kind of been downplaying the training. You're kind of like, not downplaying it. You've just been honest. It wasn't the perfect build up by any stretch of the imagination. But I love that you still came here on the biggest stage to do it. So you get through the training, you wake up this morning. How are you feeling? And how was the elitism of waking up with that extra hour?
So great. I needed that because, you know, your stomach's used to a certain thing and like all the practices around that time. So you plan for that for sure. No, it was great. I feel like the last couple days I've been chatting with my coach just about, you know, what I want from these races. And I got really fired up like the last week, which was unfortunate because my training wasn't great. So I was like, okay, don't be an idiot. But I think what's been happening in a lot of my races is that I'm separated from the front where you're really competing for something meaningful, like a podium or a win or a top 5, whatever it is. And then there's this other group that's like a little bit behind me and they're trying to bridge the gap. It's the up and comers who are trying to bridge the gap to be competitive, you know, with the front. And so I find myself in this middle section where I'm like just running hard. Like I don't get to race, I just get to run hard. So we were like, if you get in that situation, like what do you want this race to mean? Like what is going to make you not run hard but compete? And I think it was like, I just want to be a gritty motherfucker.
You were.
So that was the goal. It was like, just go out there and just be gritty and like assume that it's going to come back to you, assume that there's going to be tasks to do. And even if like you can't see it, like you just still have to be gritty.
Yeah, so talk us through the race from your perspective because you guys went off. It was a conservative first mile. I think you guys were about 6:20 through the first mile, which was not surprising to people who have run New York before. Probably first timers, it caught them off guard. Wasn't a surprise to you. There were, you know, little teases of a break, but nothing super, super serious. We saw you for so long. At one point, you were kind of in a second pack, and then you closed back onto the pack. Just talk us through it. Like, how are you feeling?
I think so much of that you see is those water stations, and we talked about this in the Olympic broadcast, where it's like people get in a rush to make sure they have space and to make sure that they're not going to get stepped on, and like it just seems like a sense of urgency to get that bottle. Right. And I could feel that, and like I can't respond. I don't have the chops, and 2, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Right. So I think every time when I knew what it was, and 2, I was patient enough to be like, okay, they're not motivated to run fast, so I can just slowly work my way back in. And that was kind of a thing we talked about. It was like, you got to take some risks so that you're in position to have objectives late, which meant like maybe I did have to push a little bit closing that gap and be okay with it, because once I got back in the group, it was easier to work with the group.
Were you surprised that the race was not more aggressive from the beginning, from the front?
The only thing that kind of threw me off was there was like some chatter about a course record. It's $50,000 bonus.
There was legitimate chatter about it. It wasn't just chatter. There was like legitimate talk.
I didn't listen to much, but I just heard like one thing. But yeah, I mean, so I was like, oh, we'll know immediately. And then
at 5K, we were like, it's not going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was slightly surprising because you're like, well, if you put it out there.
Right. And in the context of New York, it's not surprising, right? Because like the times actually don't matter. It's all about the prestige of running here. But I think when there's talk ahead of time, you're kind of like thinking that it might go that way, and it didn't. Yeah.
That's always a little surprising when it's hyped up, and then from mile one, you're like, you had no interest in that, you know. And it was such a nice day for racing. I mean, a little bit breezy here.
So, I want to ask you about that because we thought we might see fast times across the board. Again, not that we care here, but a lot of chatter ahead of time. The weather was perfect. And in both the wheelchair races and the elite races, the times were not, quote unquote, fast. So, do you think, but it still felt good out there, is basically what I'm asking.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you want to find something to complain about, you could be like, it's a little breezy. There was a headwind down first, which technically means there should be a tailwind down fifth, but it's never there.
Yeah.
So, but that's to be expected. And even that was like pretty mild compared to what it could be here.
Yeah.
Did you see any of that, like people tucking in or like being mindful of it?
No. Yeah. And in post-race interviews, everyone talked about how perfect it was. So it was actually refreshing to hear like no complaints about the weather and also to not be fixated on times. Right. Seemed like everyone was like really fixated on what this race means and how high you can finish and what that means. And for me, that was like, oh my God.
Yes,
like
there's
at
some
5K,
racing
we could
happening.
throw away the clock on both the men's and women's side and you're like, thank God, you know?
Yeah,
you can just race today.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes into play later, like when you hit the halfway and you're like, oh, it's fast or slow. How fast can they do the second half? How quick are they going to go in the park? I mean, I feel like watching last year on the lead truck, you're like, this is dragging on. I think they ran slow till like mile 22. Mm-hmm. So you're like, what can they throw down after this easy of a pace?
Yeah, what were you thinking? Like, you knew that they were going to, obviously at some point there was going to be a massive move. You know, no one's going to leave O'Beary till the last stretch. They got to stretch it out. So you know that's coming. But you looked very smooth. And, like, at one point you were, like, running the tangent. No one else was. I was like, that is so Des.
Yeah.
I love her. But you have to know that's coming. And so how are you bracing yourself for that as you're running?
I think it's a good thing, right? Like, I felt like I would be in contact, and then when it turned up, I would detach a little bit, but I could be gritty and catch back up. And I felt like that move was going to give me objectives. So I still had to maintain contact, but I was ready for it and just hoping that it was going to be aggressive enough that it like really popped people off the back, because then there's stuff to do. And it's kind of how it played out.
How did you feel? There was a lot of Americans up front on both the men's and women's side, but especially the women's side. Did that make you feel like, oh, I should be here? Like, how was that? I mean, I felt like it was you, Aliphine for a long time. Kellen Taylor was in there for a really long time. Sarah Vaughn, Jenny Simpson was in there for a while. I'm forgetting. Maggie was in there. Dakotah. Like, it was legit. Yeah, should we? Okay. I'm just going to tell everybody that last night, Chris and I were in my hotel room trying to figure out what the age grade was, because we love Dakotah.
We do. That has to be said. Let's just make sure that's clear.
We love her, like worship her. So it has nothing to do with that. But it's okay to have a goal, and your goal is to beat Dakotah. So last night we were like doing the age grading in the hotel room, and Chris was like, I think it's 6 minutes. And I was
That's
like, that
amazing.
seems super generous. I was like, I would go with 4. And he was like, should we tell her? And I was like, well, I don't want to tell her, because if it is 6 minutes and she's having a bad day, she's going to be like, I'm for sure going to beat her at 6 minutes. But anyway, you saw her. She was up front for a long time. I feel like I can't wait to talk to her, but it felt like she was kind of like, I have nothing to lose.
Right.
I've had the year of my life.
Yeah.
I made an Olympic team. I got 12th at the Olympic Games, and I'm just going to full send and see what happens today.
Yeah.
But I haven't talked to her.
Yeah.
But what was it like seeing her up front and then running with her, and then when you decided to crush her soul?
I mean, it was great to see that many Americans in the group being aggressive, believing they belonged, like not worried about the clock, just racing. It was cool, and sometimes it works out for you, sometimes it doesn't. But you're seeing people believe they belong in that pack, which is great. And I think Dakotah's just running with confidence. I don't think that I think it's really hard to come off the games and like be motivated and then have your legs and like all of those things come together. But she was like, I'm just going to take the risk. I have nothing to lose, which is amazing. I think that's a great mentality, and I think it's going to play out like further down the line for her. But today, you know, at 21, 22, like I could see her little orange shorts, and I was like, this is where you have to be gritty. Like, you can catch. They were like lined up, like just little carrots, and so she was, you know, part of that, and it was great. It was great to be able to compete, and obviously, we joke about it, but she was just like a mark that I needed to get by. And
but sometimes that's great, right? Yeah. Like you have other things. Like also Jess McLean, you know her well. Mm-hmm. This is her first major, and I actually can't wait to talk to her and find out. Like I feel like maybe she was closing so well, and I thought, oh, maybe if she would have gone a little, like if she would have risked a little more. But that's all stuff you learn, right? She's so new and young to marathoning, but. My point is, like, you have these little goals, and Dakotah's game. Like, don't worry, we love her. We all love her.
Well, they were lined up, and she was not the only one. It was just a little smirk when I went by her, and I did give her encouragement. I knew it probably had to eat her. She's like, oh, fuck. But I was like, hey, come on, let's go, eyes up. Like we can catch people here. Yeah, you got to stay motivated. But like sometimes when you pop like that, it's just like I just got to get to the finish line in one piece. So you know, she's doing something a little different at that point than I was, and so it is what it is. But there's a few folks like that, like Edna. I went by her, and
Edna Kiplagat, who we talked about a lot on the broadcast.
Also nemesis, except I always lose.
Not today. Not today. So Edna Kiplagat, obviously huge legend, multi-time world marathon major champion, 2-time world champion. Just got third at Boston this past year, I believe, here in 2024. She runs so smart. She was always in the lead pack, but in the back. But I love Edna too. She's great woman. But you beat her too.
I know. Sorry, I got a text from Allie T. It's like, what are you saying? Are your ears itching?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was great. I love Edna. She's one of my favorite people. When I caught up to the pack in Boston, I think we talked about this on the pod, she just looked over and she's like, oh, hey, Des. Like, she was like,
so cute.
Hey, how's it going? Hey. Welcome to the party.
Yeah.
Which is great. She did not say that today. But she stuck on me, right? Like I didn't know who was behind me, but she was closer than I thought, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, you know, in 2014, when you ran here and I ran here and she ran here, she had a rough day that day too, because I was just dying and I beat her. So like, she's human.
Yeah.
It turns out.
I mean, honestly, it's refreshing.
It is refreshing. Right? I agree. Yeah.
Can I give a quick tidbit about Jess McLean?
Yeah.
Because this was funny. I was behind the group a lot, trying to catch up, and I looked up and saw. It's like trying to figure out what was off about. Something was a little off about McLean. And I was like, oh, her name bib is on the back, which meant her number was on the front. And I was like, dang it, I should have told that. That's on me to like correct
It's
her.
not on you, but that is so cute. So I would call for the world feed, and everyone has their name on the front, and we're like, Jess McLean, she has her number on the front, 116. And if we had a commercial break, I would have said, am I allowed to say? But I didn't say it because we didn't have a break. But I want to say this is probably just like a first-timer thing. She didn't know. Right. And she put her name on the back and her number on the front.
I think that's, like, I guess that's the point of the story, which is, like, it's kind of endearing.
Yeah.
But also, she's so new at this. She ran so well. She ran so smart. She ran so tough. And, like, she's missing little things that she's going to correct.
Oh, yeah.
And you're just like, man, how good can she be? Which is really exciting.
Yeah, so she's going to be really good. Yeah. Future. Okay, but let's talk about you again. So you're running, you're in the pack, you know something's going to happen, but you want to make sure you're in there. Talk to us, how are you feeling through halfway?
I was good through halfway. There's like a pretty good hill almost right at the half, like 13 leading into the half. And I knew that was going to be like one of the first challenges, and it shouldn't have been a big one. So yeah, I got popped off the back for a little bit, and then I was able to close it up. And then I was with the group by the Queensboro, which I was like, okay, this is so much of the like negative energy around this was 2022. Yeah. And I just had such a miserable experience. And it was always like every mark was like, this is a little bit better than last time.
Yeah.
So that was good.
So you kept surviving. So talk to us about, so you get over the Queensboro Bridge. What was it like to drop down and hear the crowds?
It's great. Honestly, I don't want to poo-poo anything about today, but the crowds seem kind of small. Like,
I will say, from our viewpoint, They didn't seem as deep as normal.
Like right now, they're going bananas, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be running right now, but the
Right.
crowd's probably really good.
Yeah.
So it was a little quiet out there.
Yeah.
Which was surprising. I mean, it wasn't bad. I was just like, it's usually
It's just normally like
a little bit
more.
more. Yeah. Maybe I was because I was a little off the group.
No, I don't think so. It looked
good.
a
Okay.
little less.
I'm glad you noticed that
full
too.
than normal. Yeah.
I wonder what that was. Like, what do you think it was?
I don't know
The
because
weather's
you're right. It is
perfect.
popping now.
Yeah.
People were hungover. They didn't want to come out this morning.
Halloween. Halloween.
Halloween. Yeah, maybe. Seriously, who knows? Okay, so you come up there. Okay, talk to us from about 10K to go onto the finish.
I was still feeling pretty good. Like, normally you get that gauge of like, wow, I'm mentally a little bit out of it, or like I'm starting to get baby cramps here and there, and I got to be mindful of how I put my foot down and not really push just yet. But I was tapping into that gritty thing and just like, okay, like try to run hard for a mile or try to catch this person. And it was so fun to have goals, which like has been missing for a long time. Honestly, I was a little nervous about the last 6 because of the training. I didn't do as many long runs as I should have. Didn't do as many doubles as I should have.
Do you want to admit how many long runs you did, or should we just keep that in the vault? Let's keep it in the vault for now. We'll talk about it another
And
time.
I did not practice with like drinking fluids as much as I should have.
Oh, talk to us. You had a little bit of a fumble.
I
a feet
did.
fumble. Tell us
So
about
I
it.
think it was at 25K when you're on the bridge, Queensboro. And I love caffeine. I mean, in general, but like I also need caffeine because I love caffeine.
Right.
So at 25K, I was like, just to mentally click there. I had a ketone green apple with caffeine, which I was really excited about. Like,
Yeah,
I was
you've been pumped about this new flavor.
they're tasty, and like I wanted my caffeine, and I was like, hell yeah! Like I don't even think I'm going to drink the drink. I'm just going to take the ketone. And I grabbed it, and like the tape that I used was like painter's tape, and it just ripped, and the thing flew right off.
Ugh.
So I was only left with the bottle, and I didn't want to drink it.
Oh,
so
that's
I took
sad.
a couple sips, and then
Chucked it.
Do you know the old swish and spit tactic? Yeah.
Yeah, you still got to get that in there, right? That's one thing that I remember you being really good about, was running with your bottle for a really long time. But today you just did the swish.
That one.
Yeah.
I feel like recently, the last couple marathons, I've just like had a harder time with fluids. And it's because I don't have like Ryan or my coach.
Oh, wait, we
go
should
out.
actually describe what swish and spit is, because I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah,
this will
no.
be a comment. This will be a comment on YouTube or something.
I set that up for that. But yeah, let's describe it.
Okay, so the research shows, right?
Yeah.
The research shows, like, I was a person who had gastrointestinal distress a lot when I ran hard and long, and I had a hard time getting all my fluid in. But the research shows that even if you just swoosh it and get it in your mouth, your body creates a response
Right.
to it. And so even when your gut is not feeling well, and like Des today knew she couldn't take it all in, right? You still just get it in the mouth, swoosh it around. You can spit it.
You can't take it all in. You can swish and spit.
It's better if you can take it
These are
all in.
marathon tips and
Tips from the elites.
elitist tips. But they'll work for everyone. So that's.
Yeah, they
I think
work for
that's a
everyone.
good one. I think that's good.
It is a good one. Okay, so... Okay, but keep talking us through the finish. Talk us through the finish.
Yeah, I was just excited because it was hard, which is what you want. And I had objectives, and I didn't quit on them, you know?
Yeah.
And I think I got into Central Park, and I was like, well, I've done a lot. It's probably good enough. And then I could see, I think it was Lily Partridge, maybe,
Yeah.
in front of me. And I was like, okay, that's like one more person I can catch. And I caught her in the middle of the park somewhere. And then I think I was pretty much out of things by Central Park South. That's a punchy little hill that I don't remember.
Yeah, that is a hill.
So by that point, I was like, I'm pretty much out of tasks. I'm like right on that edge. Like, let's just send it home without breaking down. But I knew I had to be close to like flirting with that 2:30 mark. And the last thing I wanted was to not get under it and be like, dang.
Yeah.
So I had a little pop left for the finish, I think.
That's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
sub 230 in New York is legit. It is such a hard course, and we were reminded of it today in the broadcast, just seeing all the turns, seeing the undulation, like seeing the course elevation, seeing the surface.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a smooth sailing. We saw it with the wheelchair racers. There was some
hard.
difficulties with the road surface. So this is a hard place, and especially you guys went out so conservatively that you were having to really run that second half hard to get under 230.
Yeah, I still positive split, but it's a tougher second half. So I kind of knew that. I was happy. I was pretty happy with my halfway split. I thought when I talked to my coach earlier, I was like 1:14:30, nothing faster, and he was like, nah, like you've never negative split here, which I looked up. I have, but it's a long time ago. So he's like, you're gonna have to, if you want to run fast, you have to get out there and like give yourself a chance. And I'm glad I did. So I think I was like 1:14.0s at the half.
Yeah, that's good.
So I was good with that. Speaking of the surface, Chris McClung, sound man, all around good dude, was telling me that he had a couple little bumps in the road with that as well. And what people don't know is Chris also ran. We would love for him to come in, drop
Chris,
in,
come
and
say hi.
tell us about his own race.
So Des was saying that you noticed the bumpy surface out there as well today.
Yes. Well, and I was thinking about Des' comment from the live pod.
Were you thinking about me?
Yes.
Aww.
I twice stepped on cracks in the road, and my ankle, almost rolled. Fortunately, I saved it. But yes, that was my only complaint as well. Amazing day, otherwise on all counts.
What was your time?
So I ran 3:29, just squeezed under 3:30.
By the way, that's a lot faster than you said you were going to run.
Yeah,
last night. That's not what you said.
What did he say?
He said 3:45.
Yeah.
And I was like,
were
wow,
you
aren't we
supposed to
doing a
run
pod
with
at
someone?
one?
Did you drop them and break their soul?
No.
Were you a soul
There was no
crusher today?
opportunity for that. I have athletes here, and I know people here, but they were all in different waves and corrals, and so I ended up not wanting to drop back. I was in first wave. I'm like,
Whoa.
Talk about a lead-in.
I'm like,
breaks
I'm like 9:10. I want to get here as soon as possible.
I was going to help you be cute, but
Never mind.
just kidding.
So yeah, sadly but it was solo. But you're not really solo out there, so it was all good.
So what was the best part of the race?
Gosh, good question. I'm still processing it all. I mean,
You're going to say the crowds.
the crowd. I do not enjoy that part of the equation, but it was all
Yeah,
very.
actually tell us about that because how did you get to the start this morning? What did you end up doing?
Shout out, first of all, TCS.
That's right.
Because they hooked me up with the VIP bib sticker, which got me on the VIP bus.
Which, can I just tell our listeners, you were having like an existential crisis about it last night. You're like, I mean, maybe I should just take the ferry like everyone else. Like, I don't want to be an elitist. And I was like, dude, just if you can be an elitist, be an elitist.
I was supposed to be on the 6 a.m. ferry.
Anna Delvey moment. Always go VIP.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So I was on the 6 a.m. ferry with the regs, but TCS hooked me up. Shout out TCS. So I got on the VIP bus, but that did mean I had to leave earlier. Boarded the bus at 5:25 or so.
How did you get to the bus?
I subwayed to the bus, which
wow,
was
good for you.
about 20 minutes, no big deal from where we were staying. And then got on the bus. That was like a 2-hour bus ride. It was pretty crazy because we had a police escort of some variety, but it kept getting log jammed.
There was something going on. We got there super late. That's another story. But
I don't know what it was. There was something on the bridge. I could see. I was on the opposite side, but there was the lanes on the bridge were shut down, and it was down to one lane. And so anyway, we were delayed getting to the start area. So I don't think I actually stepped off the bus till about 7:20. So about 2 hours on the bus, and then had access to the TCS VIP area in the start area, which was awesome because it was warm and it had its own private porta potties. So went in there for a bit, but didn't have a lot of time because I was in wave 1. We had to be in the corrals no later than 8:45 was our time. It was like 8:10 to 8:45 was your window to get into the corrals. And so the only challenge with the TCS tent was that it was on the opposite side of the start area from where I had to go enter. So then I had to leave pretty early to get out to go find the blue. I was in the blue wave.
So did you warm up or did you just go over to the corral?
No, okay. You're walking everywhere and, moving around.
The first mile's for.
Yeah. And you've got that uphill at the beginning. So navigated to the corral, got in the corral by 8:30, and then you wait, 40 minutes. At that point, I heard
on your feet.
On your feet. Yeah. Some people were sitting on.
That's not a lead.
No way.
Some people were sitting on the ground, but
I do that.
I don't like sitting on the ground, so I wasn't sitting on the ground. We did hear.
Wait, is that a germ thing?
No, I don't know.
You just want to sit on your chest?
I guess I'm just getting old, and it's hard to get up from that.
That's
you know?
fair. I feel that.
So then I heard the Star Spangled Banner for you guys and the cannon go off at 8:35 right after I got into the corral. So we were all cheering for that. Couldn't see you, though. We're kind of off the bridge waiting in the wings. And then after you guys went, it was probably another 10, 15 minutes of waiting, and then we got let up on the bridge as well. I was on the top deck, and it was all very manageable. I got to say, I mean, the start is crazy. It's big. There's all these people and all that, but it was very well organized. Porta potties everywhere. I mean, you know, you guys don't know about dealing with that as the elitist that you are.
No, that's great because we had like 6, and they're like, all right, this is the last stop, and then it was like 15 minutes later, you're like, I need another option.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard people complaining this year at Chicago that the porta potties were a mess, but New York,
like how so?
They were everywhere.
That's
like
right.
even if you didn't have the private TCS porta potties, you were good because they were everywhere. I mean, they were lined up on basically all avenues of the start area, and then you also had them in the corrals once you got lined up. So, you know, no excuses on bathroom breaks. And then, yeah, we get up there and we saw the elite men go off. And then we were 5 minutes later, 9:10.
Okay, so you were worried last night because every time you've run a marathon, you've had like a goal time and a goal in mind.
Right.
And you were worried last night that you were doing this for fun and that it might change you. And I was like, dude, no, you'll find a reason to get back out there and run hard again. But what was it like to go out there and, I mean, I know it was hard because you hadn't prepared properly, but what was it like to go out there and run and not be fixated on a time or a place?
It was hard for me, I must say.
That's okay.
I'm not good at this. I'm not good at
hearing
this.
this? Chris was the defender of the non-elitists.
I'm not
Just
good
kidding.
at this. I mean, I can't count at the moment, but I've done, 22 or 23 marathons.
Wow.
Every time, most of them have been me chasing a goal time. Some of them I've paced people, and so that was sort of a mission in and of itself. This was my first marathon that was truly just for fun. We'll put that in air quotes because, you know, marathoning is a weird, twisted kind of fun. So that was an experience, but I struggled with it, I must admit, because that's not why I'm wired to do this sport. But if you're going to do it, New York is the place to do it, right?
So were you able to take it in and enjoy the ride?
Like I said, I struggled. I would say it was a mixed.
like it.
It was a mixed bag because I got out there and I'm just like, all right. And I had planned to kind of cruise pace. I'm like, well, I'm just going to go out at, you know, a certain pace that I think I can hold for the whole time. But I didn't. I mean, I started conservatively on the bridge, but then I got into a faster
Use
rhythm
that
than I had
downhill
wanted. And I'm
and
just
you're
like, all right, here we go. We're
what
just
it
going to
is.
go for it. And it wasn't anything crazy from an aerobic standpoint, but I knew that my legs, I was writing a check, my legs could not cash.
I respect that.
And that
I
was
understand
coming.
that.
Well described.
At some point, I was going to have to pay the piper, and I did. But the goal was just, let's see how far I can go before the wheels come off, which ended up being, I don't know, it was probably, I'm forgetting, maybe 19 or 20 miles. So where you would expect the kind of
That
wall
sounds
to come.
insane.
So it was pretty good for holding on.
tough
And
way to
then
do
the
it.
last 6 was a bit of a struggle. It was kind of a slow fade at the end, you know.
Genuine question. Do you think that this will make you a better coach?
Well, I mean, you know, I was thinking about that last night, but the fact that I took the VIP path, because I was thinking I need to take the normal path so I can help my athletes navigate that. Instead, I skipped it. So now they're all going to be, you know, throwing stones at me. But no, I do think it will make me a better coach in terms of prepping people for New York, because I had never run the course. I've been here, I've cheered, I've coached, I've supported, and I've studied the course like crazy, but I'd never run it myself.
Wow.
So, you know, having experienced it, there are definitely some notes in my head that I can take back and share with those that are racing New York. But, and, you know, I don't know. Beyond that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Take some time. Think on it.
Yeah.
I think that the worst part of your race was that Des and I were there at the finish waiting for you, and we had a medal to put around your neck. And we were there.
Is
And
this my beer?
it can
Is
be.
now.
It is now. We were there so excited, and we missed you.
I don't.
It's
I mean,
so
it's
sad.
partially my fault because I didn't send you.
No, Chris.
I didn't send you what I was wearing.
You need to do the lay flat.
Your fault. Yeah,
The lay flat. Did you write your name on your
tomorrow
shirt?
with your bib? The layout.
I did not write my name on my bib or shirt because I did not want people yelling my name. That, I don't know, kind of annoys me. I just don't like attention.
No,
I guess
it's great.
I just don't like attention, I guess. I'm like, I don't need that much attention. So I didn't have a name on it. But I appreciate you guys coming out. I'm really bummed that I missed you because that would have been a cool moment.
It would have been really cool.
Thanks for thinking
but we
of
are
me.
really proud of you.
I heard that
Kara was going to hug you.
I was going to hug you. I was ready.
I heard that Des didn't want to go. But
At first she was like, I don't want to go out
but
there.
then
Everyone's
she
going to
got-
slow me down. And then all of a sudden she just showed up. She's like, I got to be here.
It did.
She did.
There was
right?
It was dual
That's cool.
purpose. I was like, it's worth it, and they're not back yet. But also, I have some folks I talked into doing 5 beers, 5 boroughs, and she was also finishing. And the word was she was getting her last beer on Central Park South and was going to shotgun it at the finish line. So I was
Okay.
like, I want to see that too.
Yeah.
And you guys,
So there was a dual purpose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But we missed both of you. So.
We missed both of you.
It's
So
it's
in the
crazy.
end, wah, wah.
Yeah.
I mean,
the
it's
finish line.
crazy.
Okay, so this is going to sound... So first of all, shout out to the woman who, right before Des got there, finished the marathon and walked over to me. I'm just wearing normal clothes, and she recognized me, and she comes over and she goes, I don't think you're elitist at all. So shout out to her. But this is going to be an elitist comment. The finish line blew my mind.
So
Because
crowded.
every marathon I have finished, maybe there's 1 or 2 other people with me, and you have this open area, and everyone's hugging you, and your family's there, and then you go to the media, and it was chaos, but it was actually incredible chaos. I had just never
Yeah, it's
seen
wild.
it,
Yeah.
and that's how we missed you. I thought, of course I'll
Yeah.
see him.
No, there's-
how would I
yeah,
not see
people
him? He's one of my
everywhere.
closest friends, and we missed you.
What is he wearing? What does he look like? Does he have facial
Yeah,
hair?
they go, give me some towels. I'm like, white dude, half tights,
Brown hair.
Brooks shoes. That's all I know.
Completely nondescript.
Right.
Nothing
Like
identifying
50%
about
of the
him
people
at all.
in this
Sort of like that guy, that guy, that guy, and that guy, but a
All
little
of
less
those
like that guy.
yeah.
So it's super sad that we missed you,
Well,
but super proud of you.
I appreciate the intention. That means a lot. But yes, I got to say, New York is amazing. I had an amazing experience. I'm a bit conflicted. I have some things to process. Part of me was like, maybe this is my last marathon. Maybe
It's
this
not.
is it.
Whoa.
Maybe this is it. Honestly, I was thinking that out there.
Yeah, but you think
But
that
I'm
during
not-
every marathon. Like, that's like,
Do you?
if
And
you're
you
doing
approach-
it
That's
right, like,
Well, and you
or
approach
really
it
wrong.
in such a different headspace of like,
Yeah.
I'm not really ready for this, right? And so, of course, it felt different out there. It's different to run something when you're not truly prepared for it. I mean, Des still got 12.
But I would say,
Or
I
11.
would say it wasn't
Des
like
still ran 229 and
it
got
wasn't
11,
a
which she wasn't
negative
fully
thought.
prepared for, but whatever.
It wasn't a negative thought. It was more like, okay, well, if this is my last marathon, and it's New York, then that's a pretty good way to go out.
are you ever just like, what's
Chris,
the
you're a
fucking
baby.
point?
Stop.
You're
What's
like,
that?
you're ever running it and you're like, what's the point of this? Because sometimes I think
mean,
that. This is
I-
kind of stupid.
Yeah, no, I think that. I had some of those
What am I
thoughts today.
doing?
I'm like, what am I doing?
What am I
Could be
doing?
watching
Why do I do
football
this
on
to
the couch.
myself?
Yeah.
This was supposed to be fun, but it was amazing. Crowds are unbelievable. I'll say it wasn't. I mean, you're shoulder to shoulder in a sense the whole way, right? But it wasn't so crowded that I felt like it was
Impeding on your effort.
claustrophobic or
Uncomfortable.
annoying. You know, so that was nice. I love the different sections of the course.
Favorite
'cause
part of the course?
It was Queens. Got to be Queens. Heading up to the halfway point. Heading over the bridge. Come
No.
on, dude. That's where I was born.
I was gonna say Brooklyn because I just felt like you got to.
You spent a lot of time
spent a
there.
lot of
so
time
you're
there.
comfortable. I could move here.
I was feeling great at
Come
that
here.
point. You know, you have also kind of different personalities in different sections
I
there.
mean, that was a missed opportunity to endear yourself to my family, but whatever.
but
What'd you
but
think of the
Queens
Bronx?
is a close section.
Yeah.
Close second. Bronx is
That's
the vibes were
hard.
great there, but it's so short.
Such a
you
hard
know,
It's
section,
short.
too.
I was
Yeah.
kind of like, wow, you're in, you're out, you know,
Yeah.
and you're on.
Just
right?
swish and
You're back
spit.
into Manhattan.
Just swish and spit.
Swish and spit.
so,
Just get a little taste and then
but
get
I'm
on the
glad
way.
we, got there. There was some music DJ happening in the Bronx that was probably the best of the course that I remember.
Oh,
you
that's
know?
something for me to ask you. We talked about on the broadcast how there was like over 120 musical acts set up throughout the day today. Did
Okay.
you hear them?
Not all
Because
100,
them?
not all 120.
Yeah, and that might be like them cycling in and out throughout the day, right? Like this is a long day.
but
but-
I did hear them. There was one of the cooler ones was just a full-on marching band.
Oh, that is cool.
And I think that may have been in Queens, actually, if I remember
What do
right.
you know?
It was either-
What do you
it was
know?
either- it was
That
either-
is right. Thank
It
you,
was either
Des.
late Brooklyn or early Queens.
I think it was early Queens.
But full-on marching band with the big drums and all that, that was pretty cool because you could feel the reverberation from the percussion. But then, yeah, a lot of DJs and bands, and I mean...
Okay, we'll let you out of here, but we got to rate this course.
In terms of
good
what?
one.
Like other marathons you've done, like what was your favorite thing about it and your least favorite thing about it? Least favorite first.
Yeah, it's a good
Well, least
So then you're
favorite
gonna hit it
is just some of the footing, and we already talked about that. Some
That's
of the
totally
footing is a
fair.
little challenging, which I kind of knew, but I probably wasn't paying as close attention as I should in certain spots where I knew it might be rough. Favorite, I mean, I think I just like the variety of the course, you know, just the fact that you go through so many different parts of the city, and yeah, it's all New York, but you get like different personalities and different sections, which are represented both in the fans, but the scenery and what you're seeing and all of that. So, yeah. But it's a tough freaking course. That's for sure. You know, I've talked to other people like Boston, New York, which one's harder? And
New York.
I would have said Boston before I'd run New York, but
Do you think New York's harder?
I think New York is harder.
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm definitely they're at least a dead heat on challenge because there's more undulation than I expected in certain parts. Obviously, you have the bridges, you know those are coming, but then you know it's kind of nonstop up and down otherwise as well. And then of course Fifth Avenue, nice little false flat. You can see that for a long time.
That's the hard part is the visual.
Yeah.
You're like, I need to
You can
get
see,
there.
yeah, you can see it. And all of the bridges are that way too, where you're like, where's the crest? Where's the crest? Where's the crest? Oh, I think we're there. Oh, we're not there. You know, so long bridges.
The downhills aren't like incredibly comfortable either. You're not like, okay, I can
Right.
like recover and relax. It's like, like,
Yeah, both of you coming off Queensboro Bridge, what were your legs feeling like? I mean, that's kind of a steep turn. It's a little bit steep, and it's a like sharp turn
Honestly,
off there.
I actually felt decent there because I felt like I was kind of getting a little second wind with my legs because they were a little bit rough pretty early on. And so I felt pretty good there. And then, of course, I made the rookie mistake on New York of going too fast on First Avenue, as everyone does. And, but
We warned you.
No, I knew. I warned everybody about that. And I was also kind of like, well, screw it. Like the wheels are coming off at some point. I might as well get some time when I can. But yeah, I felt pretty good coming off the bridge.
And for both of you, I do want to get back into Des's race a little bit, but for both of you, that last 400 and you got to kind of move uphill, did that feel cruel or did you not feel it because you were so excited you were headed towards the finish? I
didn't really feel it because I was also going, kind of like a shuffle jog, don't cramp pace at that point. So, and I knew I was close. I was like counting in my head. I'm like, this is one lap of the track. You're just like, I want to get to that finish line. So it didn't seem that bad, but I also wasn't going that fast.
What about you, Des?
I was surprised by Central Park South being pretty punchy uphill. So that was hard, and I don't think that the last 400 compared.
So you thought Central Park South was harder?
Yeah. But, I mean, I'm like, I can run a 400. I don't care.
Yeah,
and then
that's true.
It was the first time that I, really considered the clock. And I was like, I can get under 2:30, which I thought I was on pace, but I didn't really have the math. I got a new Coros watch the other day, and this is such a rookie. This is McLean backwards, but I forgot to set. I always do manual splits because you're like, it's not going to be right.
Right.
And I forgot to do it, so everyone was like well before the mark, and I'm like, if these are moderately close.
You're under, but you don't
I'm close, but I'm not going to know until... And I was like, mentally, I was like, okay, I think this is about 800 to go. And then the sign popped up, and I was like, okay, I'm
you're
doing
good.
this right. Like, this good mentally and, physically.
We were in the same headspace because I was going for sub 3:30 at that point. I'm like, I think I can squeeze under. And I saw the mile to go sign. I looked at my watch. I'm like, I need to pick it up a little bit because I was off if I kept going at the current pace. So I did. And then I saw the 800, and I did the math. I'm like, okay, I think I can get it. And then I was...
There's always something for the final 400,
But math is hard.
It is
late
hard.
in a marathon.
Oh, yeah.
In general, math is pretty tough, but also during a marathon.
So I'll go, but I have to...
Thank you so
last note is I have to shout out Marathon Kids, which is the charity I was also running for today. Kids running program, gets kids involved in the sport at a very young age, kindergarten through 5th grade. We'll have over 400,000 kids in the program nationwide. It's an Austin-based and Austin-founded organization that I'm involved with. Brooks supports them, so we love Brooks for that. And so I was representing him.
And we get to be a part of it tomorrow.
And y'all get to go to an event tomorrow. So
we're day drinking, so that tomorrow on Monday will be okay.
So that's a cool collision of my worlds here to have you guys involved.
This is exciting.
And on the helicopter note, I will go.
Peeking on the audio.
But thank you guys for having me on.
Yay. Congratulations, Chris. Good job. Okay, well, there's a helicopter over us, but we've waited a bit, and it doesn't appear to be going anywhere, so I think we're just going to push through.
We're at the finish line. We're at the finish line
anyway.
Finish line things.
Okay, so yeah, we talked a little bit, but we didn't quite get your last bit. So you were just saying Central Park South felt like a climb. And at that point, how are you gutting through that part? I mean, it's so hard. It's a little bit uphill. You're grinding it out. You're almost to the finish, yet it seems so far.
Yeah, I mean, I still felt like in control of it. So it was like getting closer to the don't cramp, don't like have your legs buckle state, which is perfect, you know, and then you just have to be tough for that last stretch. And it's like, you can run a mile. Can you be tough for 6 minutes? Worst case scenario. So that was it. It's kind of the mentality.
So when you finished, who was there to greet you?
Who was there? I saw Ted Metellus right away. Love that guy. I like to call him Ted Nutella because I didn't know his last name for a long time. It's good to see him. Someone got an amazing photo of him and I, so I need to get a copy of that to send to him. And then Ryan and Walt Drenth, my coach, were there, which was great.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. So tell me.
Can we hear some about the broadcast?
Well, tell me when you saw the results, what did you think?
On Central Park South, someone was like, you're in 11th place. And I was like, bullshit. There's no way. So that was surprising to see. And then, honestly, it was good to see the results, to see like how close everyone was behind me.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, I've broken away from a lot of folks. Like, once you get past like that, you don't really come back. But they stuck pretty strong. So I was glad I didn't settle ever.
Yeah, no, you didn't.
It was great.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, I mean, the broadcast was fun. It was a totally new adventure for me. Like I said, no commercial breaks.
Were you in a trailer?
In a trailer.
The trailer.
Right over here by the finish.
Did you wear your pajamas?
I wore...
No on cameras.
I was going to, but then, like, Paul dresses professionally no matter what. So I wore jeans and a Wazelle shirt. I don't know.
So you it was Paul Swangard.
Paul Swangard. Yeah.
That's great.
And so it was just the two of us holding court for 3.5 hours. There's no commercials. There's no packages, which I was really intimidated by. But it ended up being so fun because, like I said earlier, like we actually had control of stuff. And we could go wherever we wanted. What
was the hardest part?
I think the hardest part was just like no chance to collect my thoughts, you know. Yeah. And but the good side of that was anytime anyone made a breakaway, we didn't miss it. You know, we weren't in a commercial break, or we weren't stuck on the men or stuck on the women. But and also the wheelchair races were a challenge because I don't know wheelchair racing that well. Admittedly I don't.
Right.
And I wanted to do it justice because they deserve it.
They work super hard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So that was hard, and to be honest, I was sort of relieved when they were done.
Yeah, no,
that was
what
I'm talking about.
Immediately what I thought of. I was like, a handful of people who like are always at the front or win, but if there's a strange breakaway or an upset, you're like, oh God.
Yeah, no. And you know what was interesting about this is when you work on network television, you have you get research ahead of time. There's no research here. So just going in blind on literally every single athlete. And granted, in the marathon, I know so many of them. But yeah, you're going in blind on everything.
You also have like time and space. You know what I mean? Like it's such a long show that if you're like letting it run and not saying something, that's not the worst thing in the world. So you can kind of look up your stuff.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed it. I didn't know what I'd think about calling a World Feed Marathon, but I ended up enjoying it. It was actually something I thought Des and I would crush this. Like just having the mic and also having the ability to switch between the screens.
Yeah.
Like we had split screen a lot, but like if something really important was happening in the men's, we could go to that, or the women's. I thought, wow, we could destroy this.
We would have to get everyone in the United States a VPN.
Yeah.
We could get a VPN sponsorship.
Yeah, exactly.
And then do a discount code, and then you can all go
someone
watch
help
it.
us out with that. Yeah. I know all these people were texting me while I was on air. Normally, I'll text you back at a commercial break.
Like, no.
I'm like,
no time.
guys, I can't. And I had, like, I think 33 texts of people saying, how can I watch you? I was like, you're not going to get an answer.
You can take a European vacation.
Yeah. And you're not going to find out anytime soon. But no, it was really fun. And it was just a different way to do it, but it was fun.
Do you want to talk about the men's race a little bit? I did not see it. I saw results, quick hit. I can pull them up.
Yeah, pull them up. So I think everyone was wondering if Tamrit Tola would win again after his Olympic win. And, like, you know, he's sort of had this career of, like, knocking it out of the park. So he will run a really good race. Like, he dropped out of world champs in Budapest. It was hot, but then he came and set the course record here last year. Then he went to London and dropped out. Then he went to the Olympics, and he wasn't even named to the Olympic team. He was a late ad, and then he won the Olympics in, like, dominant fashion. So I think it was kind of like everyone was kind of expecting him to win, but there were 4 previous champions. So Evan Chibet had won, Albert Carrere had won, and Jeffrey Kamwar had won, and obviously Tola had won. So 4 former champions. Good. And honestly, it was it mirrored the women's race, where it was more conservative early on, and we saw some people who are kind of still trying to break through, take the lead early on, not really know necessarily what to do with it, you know. And anyone that's run New York before knows, like, oh man, like, the racing is not happening yet.
Patience.
Yeah, patience. So we saw some of that in their race, but then it did break away, and it was really a pack of 5. It was Nagaye, Chibet, who's won twice, or who's won before, Carrere, who's won, Tola, who won last year, and Kamwar, who's won twice. And it seemed like you can't script this better. Yeah. Like 4 former champions. Right. But I will say every single one of those former champions at some point took the lead and made a move. And the only person who didn't was Abdi Nagaye. And he just sat in the back, and he covered every move, but he never led. And he never led until they entered Central Park for the first time.
No way.
And he pulled alongside Chibet. Right. And Chibet and it was interesting because, I mean, Nagaye is a silver medalist from Tokyo, so he's not a nobody, right? Okay. But I think a lot of people know Chibet better.
Sure.
But visually, Nagaye was, like, so in control, and Chibet was, like, bouncing his head. But again, he has this huge engine, right? So he's just drawing it from wherever. And we kept thinking, I don't know, like, visually Nagaye should get it, but it's Chibet. Like, how do you bet against Evans Chibet, you know?
Right.
But yeah, he, very similar to the women's race, he started to press on Central Park South, and then as they entered the park for the second time, he just pressed, and Chibet had nothing. Yeah. And he gave the most eloquent, beautiful interview after.
Good for him.
It was
amazing.
And Lewis Johnson stayed with him longer because
he was great.
It was so good. He talked about how disappointing Paris was, how it was so hard for him to even get out of bed. He was just, like, so disappointed, and he just set his sights on this, and how he just got to the starting line today and said, this is mine, and how he was like, I'm going to cover every move. I'm going to run the perfect patient race. And it was awesome. He did. I mean, it was, like, so great.
You love to see that rewarded. And, like, to be able to express that to the fans, that's really cool as well.
And he even talked about how, like, I know I'm in with these all-time greats, but I didn't get asked questions at the press conference, but, like, I knew I belonged, you know? And it was cool to see someone know I have what it takes, you know?
And then the American fellas, what'd you think of that? How did it shake out? I mean, I think all eyes are on Manson Young.
Yeah, so CJ Albertson took the lead for a little while of the marathon, and I thought, it's a little early for that. I think it might have cost him a little bit, but, you know, he had that goal of being the top American at all 3 American majors this year. But Connor Mance, it was interesting because the very first mile, I can't remember his name, Minori maybe, from Japan, went to the front and kind of pulled away, but no one went with him. And you could see Connor Mance, like, immediately spring into action and follow him. Yeah, and I thought, Connor, no. Like, but then I thought Connor showed a lot of maturity, honestly. I feel like he's matured. He was always up there, but he didn't have to be seen, you know? And I was like, that's a step forward. And I will say that Clayton Young, we never talked about him, but was always in the back, always lurking, and he closed so well. And I was like, these guys go not only does Connor finish and Clayton right behind him, but never anyone between them. Like Chicago, Trials, Olympics, and now New York. I mean, that's wild.
That is wild. I think you get so much confidence from having a training partner, and, like, if he can do it, I can do it, and, like, I'm going to respond, and I know that it's okay because we do the same stuff, which is huge. But I also think Clayton's got a lot more in him.
I think so too. Clayton, if you're a listener, which I know you are, I think that you need to risk a little bit because you're better than you think. And you always close it out so well, which tells me you aren't on the rails. Yeah, you're a very smart and savvy racer, and that's very good, and it's gotten you far. But it'd be fun to see him take a little risk, I think.
Be not gutsy. It's not gutsy. It's like,
yeah, it's just like
roll the dice.
You know, I think he's very calculated and he understands the event so well, but maybe don't be so smart. You know, just run with a little bit of abandonment because I think there's a lot more in there for him. A little
bit of heart.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No, it's cool to see them. I mean, I thought coming back from the games and being here would be super hard. Like, I didn't really have high expectations. Maybe that's not fair, but for any of those Olympians, because it's just a big year and like that energy level and all of those things to come back after Paris and like go back to putting in the work.
Right.
That's hard. That's
it is hard. Okay, so when you finished, who did you think was going to win this race before you started?
Honestly, I thought it was going to be Obiri. I don't
Me
know.
Too.
I haven't seen anything from anyone that you're like, oh yeah, they can beat her.
Yeah, and we had heard that her workouts, like she was in 2:10, 2:11 shape. She said that before Ruth ran 2:09.56. And then there was a lot of talk about the course record, and we know that she's been coached to be patient and to really take her time. But I thought, maybe that time by Ruth will spur her on
fire.
Because it's sort of like a message. Like, yeah, I know you ran 2:09.56, but I ran 2:18 in New York.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Course record.
Yeah, by 4 minutes it would have been, right? So I think, or over 4 minutes. So I think we were kind of waiting for that. I think once the gun went off, she decided, I'm not going to put a mark on my back. I'm going to run this race the best way I can and win it again because that will prove my dominance, obviously. Right? So I think there was a lot of talk in the trailer ahead of time. Will we see a course record? But by 5 kilometers, we were like, okay, we're not going to see a course record.
Shift the story.
Yeah, and that's fine, right? That's the beauty of this race is it's all about racing.
Do you think she made any mistakes? Like what mistakes, what would you point out?
I mean, honestly, if I was her and it was actually so funny. It's not funny, but fucking kids, man. She finishes the race and she goes over to her daughter and her daughter is like not happy.
Mom.
Like, Mom, you got second? I'm like, your mom just got second.
We want to go to the Jets
New York City
game.
Marathon, her third marathon of the year, where she won Boston, got third at the Olympics in second year. It was hilarious. But I think if the goal was to win, I think she should have probably pressed earlier on. Yeah. Because I think if she had pressed with 10 kilometers to go, I think everyone was following her, and I think there was a healthy fear of what she might be able to do. And I think maybe she could have run harder for longer. You know what I mean?
Break them from farther out,
Break them from farther out.
Sprint finish.
And instead, I think they hung in there, and then... I still think we thought she was going to open up and kick away, but you just never know what someone has left at that point, especially when there's 400 meters to go and you're going to be New York City Marathon champion.
Well, and that's Paris on your legs too, right?
Yes,
like,
for sure.
It's at the end of the marathon. Like, what do you have speed-wise? Well, now it's not just 26 miles. It's also the marathon you did a couple months ago.
And we had talked about that because both Obiri and Tola said, I'm fine.
Sure.
But then they both didn't have the finishes we're used to seeing them have. So I don't think that's an excuse. I think that's just reality.
It's reality, right?
That was you were all on that course in Paris. You saw it. You ran on it. That was an extremely difficult course, and she didn't jog that.
No, that was a tough race.
Yeah, I think the thing that blew my mind the most was seeing Vivian Chariot at 41 years old. So if you don't know who Vivian Chariot is, she raced on the track when I was racing on the track, which blows my mind. She's still racing. She's the Rio Olympic champion in the 5,000 meters. She's multi-time world champion, Rio silver medalist in the 10,000. She's run a few marathons and run very, very well, but we haven't seen her in many years because she had a couple kids. And this is her first race in a really long time. And I have to tell you, Des, when she took the lead and we weren't even paying attention, and she took the lead and started to hammer and she broke it open, and I'm like, oh my God,
who is this?
My track geek is like freaking out that Vivian Chariot is doing this right now. And she hung really tough. She was still with them when they entered Central Park the first time, but then they just were able to edge away from her. Yeah. But
that was
super impressive.
I was very excited because Edna and I were battling, and I was like, I got her this time, Masters champion, let's go. And then someone was like, no, you have to be on the podium to make the Masters
you do.
Win these days. So kudos to Vivian Chariot.
2:25:21 in New York.
That's moving.
Is moving.
It's moving.
And she really made the race. She was the one that really broke it open. We had seen some moves. We saw Jenny Simpson lead for a little bit. We saw Sarah Vaughan lead for a little bit. But she was really the one that broke it open.
This is a serious one.
Yeah, she was like, come and get me. And that was like, it was 4 of them, and then Chumba dropped back, and then it was just those 3. So super impressive by her to be 3rd. I was massively impressed. But obviously, this is why you run the race, because I don't think anyone would have picked Sheila Shipkarui, or at least I wouldn't have.
No.
And I wouldn't have picked her over the last 800 meters over Helen Obiri.
Right.
But she did. She ran it out of her. They came into the park, and I thought, here we go. Obiri's going to go.
Repeat
and instead, Shipkarui, she physically changed, and she powered away from her. And then you saw Obiri look over her shoulder. You're like, it's done.
Behind
yeah,
me? Right.
It's done.
I've given up.
That's it. Yeah.
That's great.
So that's why you run the race, right? Because you never would have guessed that.
Yeah. No, I'm sure she's not surprised.
Right.
Right? Like, we're all like, oh my gosh, what an upset. And she's like, no, I've been ready for this for 4 months.
Right. And she's raced the half here a few times and done really well. So she was probably like, why are you guys not talking about me? You know?
Come on over. Come to my table and listen to my stories.
Yeah. I mean, hearing that back, what would you have done if you were Obiri?
I think you're right. I mean, I haven't seen it. I didn't get to watch it yet. Oh, I just saw a mouse.
You did?
That's cute. That's cute.
A mouse or a rat? Because the mice are cute. The
it's
rat's
like a
not
little,
so much.
a little one.
Okay,
It's
okay.
cute. It's a cutie patootie. Do you see it over there in the? There's the bird, but then in this like rubble there.
Oh,
yeah, there it
I
is.
do. I see a tiny little mouse. Oh, it actually is adorable.
It's kind of cute. It will not be that way for long, I bet.
Yeah, these are very baby tiny. Oh, did it attack the bird?
I think it was a duel. It was
Wow.
an encounter that they weren't
We are
expecting.
seeing the wilderness here
I
in the
know.
middle of New York
We're
City.
reporting from the New York Zoo. Anyhow, that was distracting.
But back to Obiri, yeah.
I think I need to watch it back, but I think just off the top of my head, I don't think the more marathons you do, I think that you have to start moving from farther out because that track speed starts to go away from the legs, and so you can't rely on that kick, so you have to start relying on that strength.
If you're Obiri, are you like, I'm going back to Boston and defending my title to become 3-time champion? Or are you like, I need to go run a fast marathon? Here's the thing that I find very impressive about her. She's a 14, 18 or 19 5,000 meter runner. Yeah. 2-time world champion, I believe, on the track. One of the greatest silver medalists in the Olympics. One of the greatest 5,000 meter runners of all time. And she didn't move to Chicago or New York or Berlin, Chicago or London or Berlin, right? She went to New York, and then she went to Boston. And granted, she is a world cross-country champion, so that says a lot, I think. But someone coming from the track, it's not always
that's
obvious.
sort of unusual.
And we usually see them run those flatter, faster ones. And so it makes me wonder, like, okay, if you're her, you've proven you're excellent at the tactical marathon. Do you go out there and make a run at that world record, or just cement your legacy by putting up like a crazy time, or do you cement your legacy by going back to Boston and winning 3 times?
Show me the money. Show me the money. What is it? I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's a business, right?
Yeah, true.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to take a little segue. I'm so sorry. Because the little mouse
what
reminded
happened?
me that I want to show you my New York sweatshirt.
Oh, God, yeah. How did we forget that?
So the race was great.
Okay.
I have to go to the bathroom. We're doing great on time. Let's skip a top 5. Let me show you my sweatshirt, and we'll shut this thing down, have some beers, and have some fun.
Okay.
It's been a great show.
So
let's the big reveal. The mouse reminded me.
I gotta
Here we
see
go. Are you into fishing at all? Colt is.
And Adam,
fishing.
they like to
Okay,
fish.
they'll like this.
Okay. Oh my God. We got a taxi, the Urban Angler. Oh, this is amazing. A sinking taxi with 2 rats fly fishing off the top of it. One has a hat, one has a bandana.
NYC.
Wait, okay, mic back on. Where did you find this?
It's a fly fishing shop called Urban Angler.
That's amazing.
Ryan went to, and he bought like 50,000 shirts. They're like, here, have some free stickers. But it's like, it's super I love New York.
Yes, it is, and accurate.
And if
as
you look
shown
at
by-
it quite closely, or not, maybe you squint a little bit, but the line looks like the Brooks path. So I would have it on and look in the mirror, and I'd be like, "This Brooks? Oh no, it's
That's
the
amazing.
Rats.
It's
so
the rats.
that's my thing that I'm bringing home. I did not buy it; it was bought for me. But that's
a good
long
souvenir.
sailed.
Perfect.
So.
Okay, well,
All right.
I just have to say, awesome job today.
You too.
You had me a little bit nervous.
Why?
Because you were just like not as like full send.
Oh, yeah. I had me nervous too.
And I was so proud of you. I was like, I mean, I said this morning, I said, if she goes sub 2:30, I'm going to just worship her because I know her preparation has not been perfect, not even close. And you fucking did. It's
I'm
so
excited.
awesome.
I think it's a good training effect from this. Got to get the legs under me and then see if we can really send
and
one.
move it forward.
Yeah.
And then obviously, just real quick, we want to thank TCS.
Yes.
Because we're at their swanky after party. They've supported the
and
pod.
if you didn't, if you watched the regular coverage and got to see all the things they implemented, they did the commercial with the digital twin heart. They did, the digital twin map of the course and all the things that they're trying really hard, and they're doing a great job with innovation in the sport.
And
I
we
just
all
think
use
it's
the
great.
app today, all of us. So, yeah.
It's
Cool.
been awesome.
Well, good job today.
Thanks. You too.
All right.
Cheers.
Thanks, everybody.